All right, everyone. So, excuse me. We have another video from MathWiz. Now, this is a sequel to a video that MathWiz made before that we did watch, which you can actually see it right here. It's a comparison of Kurapika and Sasuke. Now, I was told in the comments of that video, because I think if you watch that video, you'll notice that I did disagree with a lot of the points that MathWiz made in the video. And I was told that MathWiz made a follow-up to her previous video. You know, again, this one, the one that we watched, which you can still find it on the channel. I'm not going to take it down or anything. You can go watch it. But I was told that she made a sequel, which is this one right here, which we're going to watch, where she like basically gives an update to what she thinks now, as opposed to what she did before when she made this video. So let's go ahead and watch this because I'm curious to see this video and see what she thinks now between Kurapika and Sasuke. Because I know there's a lot of comparisons between the two, or there's a lot of similarities, excuse me. Because again, yeah, like if you look at them, you know, appearance wise, and if someone were to tell you or give you like a basic idea of who these characters are, they'll tell you, I'm sure they'll probably be confused of like, wait, are you sure you're talking about two different characters? Because these two sound kind of similar, but yeah, they're very different. But okay, let's go ahead and watch the video.
Hello everybody, welcome to day number 19 of March Mathness. Today I've got another addendum to a previous video I've made. Today I am revisiting my very first thematic breakdown video, the one between Kurapika and Sasuke Uchiha. Much like with the tournament arc video, this is one that I do like overall, but do think that there were a few tweaks that needed to be made, a few things that I missed that I overlooked. A bunch of people in the comments were just talking about how, oh, Kurapika is such a great character compared to Sasuke, and, you know, how dare you compare Sasuke to Kurapika when their characters are so completely, like, the quality of each character is so completely different. Sasuke is such a poorly written character. But that was not the intent of the video at all, which some people didn't understand. The purpose of that video was actually more so a defense of Sasuke's character, just to show how different he and Kurapika were, how they were, each character attempted to explore completely different ideas. However, I think that I could have done a much better job at defending Sasuke's character, because there was a lot of information that I just didn't include, like everything post Itachi, really.
Yeah.
I talked about how Itachi's death affected Sasuke and about that big paradigm shift he had, but there was more to his character beyond that I never.
It did, and I think that that's something that a lot of people kind of, you know, forget about, is that, you know, Sasuke, like I'm sure some people probably say, or have probably said that, you know, post Itachi, Sasuke just felt like a completely different character. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously, like that's kind of the point. Like that's like what you would kind of expect to happen when you find out that, you know, this thing that you've spend your entire life on, spend all of your effort, all your time focusing on, sacrifice so many things just to achieve this, and then you find out that it was all based on a lie, and you've been living in the place where the people, like you've been living in the place where the people who are responsible for it call home, and this is a place that you've defended in the past, and now you find out that they're the reason for why you are where you are. Now I know some people might say, well, yeah, but Sasuke did technically kind of make his own choice, and you would be right. Like a lot of it is due to Sasuke's choices, because a lot of people did kind of try to warn him that, you know, it's not really a good idea to go down this road. I mean, hell, even Kakashi told him. And that one moment, which I absolutely love, it's one of my favorite moments in the series, where he tells him, excuse me, that he needs to let it go because it's not going to end well. And Kakashi tells him, you know, when Sasuke tries to say, you know, hey, maybe I should kill everyone, you know, then maybe you'll know what I feel, or you'll know how I feel, excuse me again. And then Kakashi just tells him, well, I'm sorry, but you're kind of late on that, because everyone you're talking about is kind of already dead. They've already, and not died of natural cause. No, they've been killed. They had their life taken away from them, except for one. Well, we know one was still alive and still out there. So yeah, so like Kakashi definitely knows what Sasuke's going through, but he's still telling him, it's like, dude, you gotta let it go. But Sasuke didn't listen, and that is absolutely on him. But again, like a lot of the blame does go to the people who kind of put him in that situation, and I think it kind of led to why Sasuke thought the way he did at the end of Shippuden. and why he thought that, you know, the whole world needs to be changed because it's that very same world that we're living in that caused all of these things to happen. That's why there needs to be change. That's why he called for, you know, there needs to be a revolution. The system that's in place right now needs to be taken down because it's not a good system. Now, whether you agree with him or not is irrelevant, but you can't say it doesn't make sense where he ends up or his journey along the way, because in my opinion it absolutely makes sense.
Never really even got into, but now that I've gone back and revisited Naruto, I have a more well-informed perspective on his character. I do stand by my statement that Sasuke's character is fairly simplistic, at least at the start, and that's part of why his character works so well. However, I think I oversimplified that a bit in that original video, which is kind of ironic. Sasuke doesn't just care about his quest for vengeance, he does care about his comrades as well, and that was one of the focal points of his entire character arc. One of the big things for Sasuke when he fought Naruto at the end of part 1 was that he wanted to cut ties with everyone close to him and bear his burden himself. And this is the main point of his character arc that gets challenged at the very end. It's a constant throughout most of Naruto. He takes the exact opposite stance of Kurapika, who places his comrades over his goal. Sasuke is the reverse, where he places his goal above his comrades, and everything that he does is in pursuit of that goal, but at the same time, he doesn't throw his comrades under the bus. When he goes off to train with Orochimaru and later joins the Akatsuki after killing Orochimaru, he does all of this of his own volition. He tries to stay away from Konoha as long as he can avoid them. The only time he comes into conflict with his comrades at first is when they are actively pursuing him and trying to stop him from reaching his goal. And when he eventually does turn on him...
In my opinion, like, that was kind of... in my opinion, that was kind of a dumb move by them, because that's the one thing that... And you could say that maybe it does make sense because, you know, they were, like, technically they were still kids, so you can't really like fault them for not acting like how you think an adult would react in that moment. But I think that those actions are what kind of like drove Sasuke to want to push them away even further, because it's like, okay, look, I already cut ties with these people once and yet they're still trying to go after me, so now I need to kind of push them even further because they're still not getting the message. And like every chance they got, they just went after him, and they were under the impression that, oh, Orochimaru is manipulating him or whatever, not thinking for once that no, this is something Sasuke himself chose. Like, he chose to go to Orochimaru of his own volition. There was no manipulation there. I mean, well, okay, that's not technically true. I mean, maybe there was a little bit of manipulation because Orochimaru did say that, look, you want power, I can give you power. So maybe you could say there was that there, but most of it was Sasuke's choice. Like, he knew what he was doing the entire time. He still chose to leave, and he had reasons for it. Because I do agree with what was said right here. Like, Sasuke, like he doesn't want his friends getting involved with this because he knows that this is something that he has to do. This is a burden he has to take on alone. Now, whether you agree with that or not is up to you, but that was his reasons for it. Like, he had actual understandable reasons for why he did what he did, and yet consistently his comrades keep like trying to push him. They keep trying to basically force something on him that he actually doesn't want. Like, he chose this life, and yet they're still trying to force him to do something else, which in my opinion just kind of like it wasn't a smart move. It wasn't a smart move in my opinion.
His comrades after Itachi's death, when he declares war on Konoha, he only does this because these shinobi are defending a system that he, at that point at least, does not agree with, that he only sees as a corrupted system. After all, it may have just been the Leaf Elders, it may have just been Danzo who forced Itachi to slaughter the Uchiha clan, but Sasuke doesn't just stop with them, because there is no one in the Leaf Village who seems to be questioning the way that system operates. And Sasuke doesn't understand why they continue to go along with this corrupt system. And so that's why he seeks to destroy everyone.
Well, the thing is that I think that Sasuke's reason for why he goes after, you know, even the people, even though you could say it's not necessarily fair, because, I mean, it's not like they did anything. They didn't know the Leaf Elders are doing this because they kept it secret. And I think that for Sasuke, like, that's even worse, because it's like these people are living in this system being completely ignorant. Like, none of them are even questioning whether or not this system that they're living in even works or not, or whether or not it's good. I think that that's what pissed him off even more. Because yes, again, you could say that it's not fair to blame the people for something that the people in charge are doing, and I am inclined to agree, but at the same time, and again, I don't agree with Sasuke's actions. In my opinion, I think he's like, it's not fair to judge people for something that other people have done, especially the leaders. Like, it's not fair to do that. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't get where Sasuke was coming from, because he is like he's looking at them and like, none of you are even bothering to question whether or not there's something wrong here. Like, you're just so willing to accept whatever is happening. You're like, you're just as responsible, because like I said, you're choosing to basically live in ignorance of what's actually happening around you. So again, it's like, yeah, I guess whether you agree or disagree is honestly depending on you.
There's a difference between the unresolved crises that I referred to in the original video. Kurapika's vengeance towards the Phantom Troop just suddenly disappears. His target of vengeance is gone, and he has nowhere to direct that, so it just kind of dissipates. Whereas Sasuke gets a completely new target for his vengeance, because the cause, the source of his suffering, turns out to not be his brother, but rather the system that caused his brother to massacre the Uchiha clan. So then, Sasuke is not just trying to destroy the cause of his suffering, but he's trying to destroy the cause of his brother's suffering. Kurapika's situation with the Phantom Troop in Yorknu doesn't really have the same connotations to it. A more accurate comparison, if I wanted to use Kurapika as an example, let's say that the Kurta clan had planned to declare war on the Hunter Association, or planned to declare war on somebody. So the Hunter Association actually hired the Phantom Troop to exterminate the Kurta clan to prevent war. At that point then, like, to actually show a clear difference between their two characters, either Kurapika would have to be just like Sasuke, and his target of vengeance would then become the Hunter Association, or Kurapika would then somehow have to move beyond that. And if he could do that, then he would be truly different from Sasuke. At least as far as that paradigm shift would be concerned, because as it is now, like, he does start off with a more nuanced personality, I feel. He's fully aware that he's descending into darkness, but he can't really stop himself, because
yeah, he's
that's
obsessed.
the goal he's looking for. Even
It's
now,
what
in the
he's
Dark
dedicated his
Continent
life
arc,
to.
that hasn't really changed. I mean, the stuff that he's going through there will definitely affect where his character goes from here, but he still does have the same, like, he's still the same character, really. He still floats back and forth between the light and dark halves of his character. Whereas with the hypothetical situation that I posed just a few moments ago, Kurapika would then be more likely to reject one of those two halves of his personality. Would he abandon his quest to avenge his clan just because, oh, it wasn't actually the Phantom Troop, it was the Hunter Association? I kind of get the feeling that Kurapika would go after the Hunter Association if that was the case. It would certainly be interesting to see what that would entail if he would perhaps come into conflict with Gon, Killua, and Leorio, but then again, the Hunter Association isn't quite the same as the Leaf Village, so there's not necessarily a forced conflict there. So even then, the parallel isn't quite the same. To kind of replicate Kurapika's plight with Sasuke, the only way that you could really show Sasuke going through the same situation that Kurapika experienced with the Phantom Troop in Yorknu, you would have to have, I don't know, some random member of the Akatsuki. Maybe Pain kills Itachi or something before Sasuke can actually fight him. Because then at that point, the object of Sasuke's vengeance is gone, and there would be no additional context surrounding that. Itachi would just disappear, and Sasuke would have nowhere to go with his vengeance. So if that were to happen, then yeah, I could see him doing something similar to what Kurapika did, where he might just go back to the Leaf Village and reunite with his comrades. Sasuke's character arc is Kishimoto's exploration of the world that he created, this world of shinobi, because through Sasuke, you have this character who suffers all this hardship and comes to question why it is that these ninja, these shinobi, do what they do. Why did his brother massacre an entire clan just to protect the village? What is a village? What is a shinobi? These are the questions that he seeks to answer. And so when the Great Ninja War rolls around and the main villains are defeated, when he's got a clash with Naruto...
So I just want to talk about this for a second. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. I just want to talk about this right here. I just find it interesting that I guess you could say the final, not necessarily villain, but the final quote-unquote antagonist of the Naruto manga is, Sasuke himself, and his goal is to take down the shinobi system because, he believes that it's this same system that's caused not just his brother, but also so many people across the world to just suffer because, this system requires people to basically commit like horrible acts all in the name of, just whatever goal that they have. And Sasuke believes that, that's just not right. Like my brother never should have had to do something so horrible in order to prevent something. I mean, yes, what Itachi did, he didn't want to do it, but he knew that it was, the only way. Like if he didn't, then the coup would have happened, and then the Leaf Village would have been left weakened, and it would have been left open to attacks by their enemies, and then more people would have died, and then a war would have broken out, which would have led to more people dying. And yeah, it's like Itachi felt like he had no choice, but it's that same world that Sasuke is challenging. It's um it's this system that required him to do something like this in the first place. He's challenging this entire world, like this whole shinobi village, this alliance, wars, all of that. It's the separate nations, the separate clans. All of this is just it all needs to go in Sasuke's eyes because it's that same system that's leading to all of this. And what I find interesting is that, Sasuke obviously later changes his mind. He said, all right, look, we're going to do it your way. Let's try your way, Naruto. Now, in my opinion, and people may disagree with me on this, but in my opinion, I don't think Sasuke's necessarily dropped that worldview. I do think that a part of him probably still believes that this whole system needs to change because, even well into the Boruto era, while you could say that, there is peace, obviously, well, maybe not, although that peace is kind of, it's kind of very fragile at the moment considering the whole thing with, code and all of that. You could still say that it's not necessarily like the ideal world. Like it's still a world that requires a lot of work to be done in order to achieve the goal that Naruto is trying to achieve, a world where people truly genuinely get along and they genuinely work together. And I feel like Sasuke did kind of want that, just in a different way than Naruto. He wanted to create a world where, just like how, earlier it was for like the past few days where the world was united against a common enemy, he wanted to do that. He wanted to create a world. Basically, he wanted to do what Lelouch did in Code Geass, where he united the entire world against one enemy. Although granted, the only difference is that Lelouch actually succeeded, whereas Sasuke kind of like stopped. Even though I still believe that there's probably a part of him who still believes in that, who still believes that like this world, the system that we're living in, it's not going to last long. In fact, I think there was even a moment where Orochimaru kind of said to Naruto that, the world, like the reason why people like me and Sasuke are necessary is because we're going to be needed. Like you need people who are willing to do whatever it takes to protect what it is that we have, even if it means we have to do these horrible, unspeakable acts. Like you're gonna need those people. If you're that desperate to protect the world as it is now, you're gonna need people like me and him. Like we are necessary. We do serve a purpose. But sorry, to go back to the original point before I went on this long tangent. I just find it interesting that that was Sasuke's goal, and then now we're in the Boruto series, where literally in the first chapter, it seems like someone actually managed to accomplish what Sasuke didn't at the end of Naruto. I always find that interesting because obviously first chapter in the first episode of the anime, we have Kawaki looking at Boruto standing on the Hokage stone faces, basically saying that the era of shinobi is over. And again, we still have no idea what the hell happened. I'm still under the belief that we're being misled by what's actually happening at the beginning. I don't think that it is what a lot of people are saying it is, that Kawaki went bad and he destroyed the village. I don't think that's the case. I think that something else must have happened. And I don't think it's the divine tree either. I don't think Code managed to successfully plant it because, as we know now, and sorry, I guess spoilers for the Boruto manga if you haven't read it, they need like a living sacrifice for the Ten Tails in order to cultivate the divine tree to grow the chakra fruit that they need. Uh, I think that I think something happened, but I don't think it's what we think it is. And the reason why I don't think it's a divine tree, because I think that if Kishimoto did that, it would just be a repeat of what already happened. So I don't think he's gonna do that. I think he's got something else planned. At least I hope. But we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, sorry guys, didn't mean to go on this really long tangent, but let's go back to where we were. There we go.
When he's got a clash with Naruto, it's because he wants to start a revolution. He wants to completely reject this corrupted shinobi system. He wants to reject the system that tortured his brother, that caused him to massacre his entire clan, to reject the system that created all this internal strife for Sasuke himself. And the method he plans to use to achieve this goal is very much so tied to the other aspect of his character, the fact that he rejects his comrades. Sasuke plans to become an entity much like Pain, where all the hatred will be directed towards him. He plans to bear the entire burden of the world upon himself. And that's not something that Kurapika
Wait, sorry, I missed something. Let me just go back a second.
The entire burden of the world is to become an entity much like Pain, where all the hatred will be directed towards him. He plans to bear the entire burden of the world upon himself.
Okay, yeah, see, here's the thing. That's actually wrong. That's not what Pain wanted to do. Pain had, like, okay, Pain's goal was not like what Sasuke wanted to do. Sasuke's goal, where he wanted to bear all the hatred of the world on him, thus giving the world something to unify against, that's not what Pain wanted to do. What Pain wanted to do was he wanted to collect the tailed beasts, and he wanted to basically create WMDs. Basically, he wanted to use them as that, and he wanted to basically distribute them to the world, or he wanted to create a weapon, a jutsu that was powerful enough to, let's say, wipe out an entire country. And he wanted to basically spread that to the nations and basically create sort of like a Cold War, you know, basically where no village uses either of their weapons, because they know once one starts, that's it, it's over. And he basically wanted to do that. He basically knew that the best thing that you can hope for is a temporary peace. Like, that's the best thing that you can hope for, because human beings in general, you know, they say they want peace. And this is something that Madara also stated when he was like when he pinned down Tobiraba on top of the ghetto Mazo. He basically said that, you know, humans, they want peace, but they also crave conflict. And that contradiction is the reason why we're living in this world where it's in a constant state of flux. Like, one minute they want peace, and then they want to go back to conflict, and then they want peace and then go back to conflict. It's because, like, of those two aspects of humanity where they want peace, but they also want conflict. It's like, so Pain knew that the best you can hope for is at least a temporary peace, because he knew that eventually someone's going to use the jutsu again, you know, the one that can wipe out either entire portions of a country, or at least the entire country in and of itself. People will be reminded again how horrible war is, and then they'll stop for a bit, and then eventually they'll go back. And that's, he believed that that's the best thing that you can hope for at the moment. But yeah, so that's not the same as what Sasuke wanted to do. He wanted to give people, again, he wanted to do what Lelouch did in Code Geass, where he wanted people to unify against one thing. So, because he saw what happened with the Akatsuki, he saw what happened with Madara, he saw what happened with Kaguya. The entire world was united against one enemy, and he believed that now that that enemy is gone, people are just going to go back to how it was before. And as you can see in the Boruto era, that's kind of like, it's kind of true. I mean, it's not to the scale that it was before, but those conflicts are still there. Like, they haven't gone away. Like, they haven't like achieved 100% peace. So ironically enough, Sasuke, Madara, Pain, like, they were all right. Eventually the world went back to how it was before, now that that enemy is gone. It's just the way it is. And I find it interesting, or it's kind of funny, not interesting, it's kind of funny that, you know, the Naruto series kind of paints, not completely, but it kind of paints what characters like Sasuke, Madara, Pain, and what they were saying as kind of being incorrect. And Naruto, of course, being the hero, tries to paint what his opinion is, or his worldview is, in a more positive light. And yet in comes the Boruto series, and all it did is just prove that what they said was completely correct. I just find that funny.
That's not something that Kurapika would do. In the York New arc, Kurapika does try to keep his friends out of his conflict with the Phantom Troop, but ultimately when push comes to shove, he allows them to help him.
Mhm.
Kurapika doesn't fight
And
with
that's
any
where
of
they
them
differ.
to try to keep them out of his way, to let him handle his business on his own. He accepts the help of his friends, and that's something that Sasuke would not do. When Sasuke has his final battle with Naruto at the end of the series, he finally learns through his defeat that he needs to learn to let people into his life. He needs to learn to not try to bear all the world's problems on himself. He needs to learn to let other people help him with his problems. He finally learns to understand what it means to be a shinobi, what it means to be a village. A village is a group of people who try to preserve this idea of peace, who work together to try to prevent conflicts, but they work together. A character like Itachi tried to bear all of these burdens himself, and he failed.
Isn't he? No, never mind. I was gonna say something like, isn't he still kind of like out there doing things on his own? Except that's not actually technically true. Yeah, he is sent on missions alone, but that's only because like they know that he's the only one who can handle these missions, because obviously he had the Rinnegan. He can go into these. He can go into like the Otsutsuki's dimensions and all of that. He's the only one who can do that, and he's the only one who's powerful enough to be able to handle them should he ever run into a problem. So technically that is what I was about to say is incorrect, because like I said, I was about to say like he's still kind of doing things on his own. So what was the point? But it's like, yeah, no, I caught myself. It's the
Failed. The first Hokage tried to bear the burdens of the world on himself, and he failed. He created Madara. And Sasuke comes to reject Madara because Madara's ideal plan, the infinite Tsukuyomi, involves rejecting reality, to live in a dream. And by doing that, it invalidates all the effort that everyone else had put in to try to make a better world. It invalidates Itachi's efforts. He sacrificed himself, his life, and he made his brother Sasuke's life a living hell to try to protect this idea of peace, to try to protect the Leaf Village. And the last thing that Sasuke wants is for his brother's efforts, for his own efforts to be completely rejected, for it to be worthless, all for nothing. When I say that Sasuke is the best written character in Naruto, it's not just a meme. Throughout the course of the entire series, these ideas are set up, and they're explored very well. The conclusions that
So that's actually interesting. You know what? I want to throw the question to you guys. Who do you think is the best written character in Naruto? Now, keep in mind, I'm not asking who's your favorite character. I'm asking you, who do you think is objectively the best written character? From like a character development standpoint, from a character progression standpoint. And yes, there is a difference between the two. Consistency. Take all of those into consideration. Who do you think, out of all the characters, is without a doubt the best written out of all of them, the entire characters in Naruto? No Boruto characters, and don't include characters from like the light novels or the movies or any of that, just the Naruto manga. Who do you think is the best written one out of all of them?
that Sasuke reaches are built upon the efforts, the life experiences of multiple characters, including Itachi. And Kishimoto manages to take these seemingly extreme leaps in judgment, these seemingly extreme paradigm shifts, but he grounds these extremes through logic, through the amount of information that Sasuke is taking in. And for one final addendum to that previous video, I did say that I wasn't a super huge fan of Sasuke's abilities. I'm still not really. Just the way that the power escalation goes in Naruto isn't great, but I can at least appreciate Sasuke's powers on like a...
It did get a bit much towards the end, and in my opinion, Boruto just kind of completely just, in my opinion, it kind of jumped the shark when it comes to power escalation. It would just, it's starting to reach Dragon Ball levels of insanity to where, okay, like somehow you went from being able to destroy a planet to being able to destroy multiple planets to being able to destroy an entire galaxy, and somehow you went from that to an entire universe, and now there's people arguing that Goku is now basically like multi-universal, and which I don't necessarily disagree, because I mean, if you're going to continue going forward, like that's just the natural directions, but it gets to the point of being a bit much, and I feel like Boruto or the Naruto series is kind of getting to that level. It's just it's too much, and I think that's why a lot of people were kind of hoping that maybe Boruto was kind of bring it back down a bit, keep it more to the grounded level that part 1 Naruto was. Yeah, it had some fantastical elements to it, but for the most part it was pretty grounded. But now it's like you've got dimension hopping, space star destroying, or whatever. It's just
thematic or conceptual level, I guess. With how Sasuke's worldview evolves, he typically will get a new set of eyes, as it were. So when he gets his Mangekyo Sharingan, for example, that only happens right after his battle with Itachi, right after he has this massive paradigm shift. When Sasuke kills Danzo and gets more insight into why he did what he did, why he forced Itachi to slaughter the Uchiha clan, he gets the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. After Itachi is resurrected and the two Uchiha brothers fight Kabuto, and Sasuke gets a little more insight into Itachi's mindset. Orochimaru gets resurrected, he meets up with the 5 Kage and learns the whole origin of all of this, the history of shinobi, and then goes on to fight Obito and Madara, thus understanding their mindsets for how to fix the shinobi world and seeing the flaws in their judgment. He gets the Rinnegan. The mechanics of how these things work in fights are not super impressive to me, but seeing how Sasuke...
Yeah, I gotta disagree with that. I think the mechanics are absolutely fantastic in the fights. Not so much in the recent series, if I'm being honest, but yeah.
Sasuke's abilities progress alongside his character is pretty cool, and I will give Kishimoto credit for that. I don't know if...
That's actually, and sorry, it's an interesting point that he made, and something that I actually kind of never really noticed, that every time Sasuke's worldview changes, he gets a new pair of eyes. That's actually something I never noticed, and you kind of don't really get that in the Boruto series. It's like, let's take Boruto and Kawaki for example. Like, we know Boruto has that what is it, the Jogan or something or whatever, but it's like, what it's like, what exactly is Kishimoto trying to say with that? That eye that Boruto apparently has, or people call it the pure eye or whatever. Like, it's just, it feels like those things just aren't there in the Boruto series, and I feel like that's kind of what's been missing from it. I mean, now granted, I'm only judging it as it is now. For all we know, this could be completely changed by but maybe by the time you guys watch this video, or if you're watching this way after it's uploaded on the channel, we don't know. Anyway, you know what, I'm just gonna breeze through, because this goddamn, we're at the 31-minute mark. I did not plan for this video to go this long, but yeah, let's just watch the rest of it and then I'm gonna end it.
If I really have a preference between the two characters, there's obviously going to be a massive difference here, because Sasuke's character arc is over. Naruto is finished, whereas Hunter x Hunter is still ongoing. Kurapika still has an ongoing character arc, so I can't really make any final judgments on Kurapika's character when his arc isn't over yet. The point I was trying to get across in the original video that I kind of failed to do, but hopefully you understand through this one, is that both are really great characters. Sasuke is well written, Kurapika is well written, and even though Kurapika at the moment doesn't have quite the same amount of progression as Sasuke, there's still, I don't know, I think it's just that initial personality that kind of gets me, that I just like. Maybe my opinion will change once Kurapika's character arc is over. Maybe I'll end up liking Sasuke more in the end. But either way, they're not the same character.
No.
It's not like, oh, Sasuke is just a Kurapika ripoff. And I think that about covers what I wanted to talk about today. So I will catch you on tomorrow's edition of March Madness.
Okay, so that's end. Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna quick conclusion, and then I'm gonna end the video, and I'm gonna let you guys go, because again, we're at the 33-minute mark, and I swear I did not plan for this video to be this long, especially for an 11-minute video. But okay, so just to the point that he made about how Sasuke keeps getting new eyes and all that, and how there's like, it seems like there's a relation to Sasuke's character and how he gets a new, how every time he gets a new worldview, he gets new eyes. So I gotta ask, what's Kishimoto trying to say when he basically got rid of Sasuke's Rinnegan? Like, what's he trying to say there? And before someone says, well, it's the whole depowering, no, that doesn't count. I mean, like, what's he trying to do with his character by having the Rinnegan be destroyed by his student, or his student who got taken over by this alien entity? Like, what exactly is he trying to say by that? All right, so that's all I wanted to say, guys. Again, I'm gonna end this video right here. Sorry for this video being longer than it needed to be. I still hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll continue to support me. And if you are going to support me, consider hitting the subscribe button, like, sharing, commenting, all the stuff that YouTube loves to see you do, or the YouTube algorithm loves. And I hope to see you for my next reaction. Bye for now.